carriers, brokers, and dispatchers. You're tuned into the eCarrierCheck channel, where we bring you the insider tips, tricks, and insights to drive your sales and logistics business to new heights. Each week, your hosts, Jared and Nate, sit down with the top professionals in the industry, diving deep into everything from prospecting and cold calling to maintaining carrier relationships and maximizing your bottom line. Learn real-world strategies, hear success stories, and get actionable advice you can implement in your business today. So buckle up and get ready for an entertaining and informative ride. This is the eCarrierCheck channel, your source for can't-miss logistics intelligence. Stay tuned.
Hello, good morning, happy Friday, Freaky Friday, Fireball Friday.
This is it.
Whatever Friday you like to make it, it's yours, right?
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday, and it's before a holiday, so it's kind of crunch time, and it's kind of it's weird right now.
Yeah.
With rates.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of noticed that this week.
Man.
It's only going to get weirder. So
yeah.
But I'm excited to talk today with Bella Montoya with A&Z Trucking. Bella, you and I had connected, almost 2 or 3 years ago when you got back into this industry. So you have to remind me, because I can't remember if you were in logistics before you became a flight attendant and then got back into logistics. So give us a rundown how you got to where you're at today, just kind of your journey.
Yeah, so I was a COVID grad. We had no idea. We didn't have graduation. We didn't know what we were doing. My degree is in exercise science. I don't think anyone comes into logistics majoring, knowing I'm going to be a broker when I grow up. I got recruited from a logistics company, and they put me through training, which was awesome, right? I came in ground zero, knowing absolutely nothing, didn't even know what logistics meant at the time. And I was there for about 2.5 years, enjoyed my time there. I felt like, especially when I was there too, my clients tailored a lot more towards the food industry. And so moving on, it lines up really well with A&Z. But then I had always wanted to be a flight attendant. And when I was in school, I was obviously too young. You had to be 21 at the time. And then COVID hit. So that was just completely out the window. I mean, there was furloughs on top of furloughs. So once they started hiring again, I went into that. We did that for about 2.5 years, and it was a really cool experience. I mean, me and Nate were chatting. I've been able to go to a majority of the United States and small towns, big cities, islands, out of the country. Like it was amazing. I really enjoyed my experience there. But I definitely kind of had that calling back into logistics. And Cody was someone I had actually cold called. At my old job, he didn't have an updated LinkedIn. I didn't have a platform like eCarrierCheck. So I had cold called him and just stayed in touch with him and kind of pushed to figure out who I thought he was working with at the time. So he entertained that call until he was kind of like, no, I don't even work there. Yeah, that went. And then a few years later, we had just kind of stayed in contact on LinkedIn. And, I had said, I might be open to getting back into logistics and seeing, what an opportunity would look like. And so I'm really glad I came to A&Z. And so with a lot of my clients being previous food and beverage, a lot of people have left at that time. 2.5 years is a long time to be out of the game for sure. But it's been good. And it really has kind of been starting from the bottom again, because people move on, and 2020 selling versus 2025 selling has been a completely different experience for me for sure. Back in 2020, it was a lot of, no, we're not shipping anything right now. We're not doing anything. We don't know what's happening. The whole world has shut down. And then it was like from 1 month to the next, like, oh, we're revamping production. We're opening up a new facility. And so you got a lot more yeses at that time. And so coming into this, this year back in the industry again, a few years later, it has been a completely different market. And it was in the very beginning of COVID, you know, where people aren't very open right now, and they might be maybe entertaining conversations, but that's not until the market flips, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So it's been a lot of maybe laters. And yeah, that's kind of just how things have been for a pretty big picture right now.
Yeah, good. You know, what was your mindset? You got into logistics, got into being a flight attendant. So you already had a taste of logistics. You know, what was your mindset coming back into it where you're like, this is where I need to be starting because I already know? Or like, you know, just what was your mindset?
So I really enjoy dealing with people. I do. But dealing with hundreds of different people every single day, that was difficult for me for sure. I think not only that, they have a lot of parallels actually. Like when you're flying your whole life, you're working like overtime hours all of the time, right? You're in your city, and you're busy all of the time. You're flying to airports. There's a lot of transportation. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see. And so I think that was just taxing on me mentally. I was exhausted all the time. A lot of them are, you know, that's just part of the hours and what you sign up for. And I think also you don't really know what you're signing up for to be a flight attendant. Everyone's like, oh, that's so cool. You go through training, you got to be on a plane. But yeah, there's a lot of hours where you are just sitting around at airports or sitting around in a vehicle waiting to be transported to the airport in traffic. And so, yeah, that just takes a lot of your life. And I think with that too, I miss building meaningful relationships. And I mean that with like my customers, you know, like being able to have conversations with them and not just like a hi, bye, where are you going? Oh, that's so great. I hope you enjoy Disneyland. Okay, bye. You know, but really being able to build solid connections with people. And I feel like in logistics, you get that. And then, you know, you get to grow with them and understand their business and understand what they're doing. And I think also a thing that I deepened and learned when I was flying was just my overall communication and just being more personable and my small talk and all of those things. So I think there was a lot of tools that I was able to take from flying back into logistics as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know what I love about you, Bella, is how real you are. You know, there's a lot of people that post on social media, and you know, it's Gong Friday, Monday through Friday. You know, everyone's getting new clients, and you're just real. You're like, I had 47 dials and no friggin' yeses today. You are the most real person on social that we get to see. And I thought this was an interesting quote. That I think, I don't know if you came up with it or where it came from, but you said not every day is a win, but every dial sharpens your blade. And that's quoted by the great Bella Montoya. And, like, I mean, honestly, like you kind of hit it on the head. Like you're out in the trenches every day and you just tell your story. And I think more people need to tell their story. Why do you tell your story the way you do? Because I friggin' love just how vulnerable you are, how raw you are. There's misspellings in a majority of your posts.
No, there's not.
I just wanted to mess with you. But, I mean, like honestly, like it's so raw. What's going through your mind when you're posting on social?
Yeah, I think there's this crazy amount of positivity in sales where, okay, I did this. You know, I think I mean, I know you guys know Chris Jolly. He's been on the show. You've been on his show. I love Chris Jolly, right? He's very honest about what he's doing and he's in the grind and he talks about how he makes sure he makes dials every single day. Some days are different. But I think for me, I resonated with that a lot. And I was like, no, sales is not all rainbows and roses. And I got a new client and this is my new enterprise client. And, you know, you're in it every day. And it takes one phone call at the right time to the right person who will pass you along or happens to be the guy. And it's Wednesday and it's his Friday. You know, it takes one good call or one really targeted email. And you're showing that you did your research and you understand their operation and there are actual synergies within your network. And so I just felt like a lot of what was on LinkedIn was very positive. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but like excessive fake positivity, you know? And so I just wanted to be really honest about with what's happening, you know? Some days I make 15 calls and I get one answer and that's a really, really good call. And that leads into a meeting and I'm like, hell yeah. Okay, cool. I'm good. I'm gonna send out some emails now. I'm gonna like ride that high into something else, you know, or keep going. And then there are the days where you're sitting there and you're grinding on the phones and you get absolutely nothing. And then you send out 40 emails after that and get absolutely nothing. And that is part of it. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. And that's what me and Cody talks about. You know, it's the numbers day and continuing to put the output out there and at least provide some type of value and awareness in creating a brand. And I feel like that's really what I'm trying to do, is like not necessarily 100% sales based. I also want to provide value and information in the logistics and supply chain industries as well. But also, like, I am here, I am in it every single day. And so I think also I have seen that people resonate with that and understand, and they're in it too. And I don't think that's talked about enough too, is how much output you're putting. And sometimes it feels like you're not getting the value, you know, the value back into it. But then you pick up the phone and you finally get that person on the phone. They're like, oh yeah, I have gotten your emails actually. Or what's your name? I think I had someone go, oh, you've sent me 7 emails. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's set up a call for a couple, you know? So it's just continuing to be a constant without being a nuisance. And that was something I feel like in the beginning coming back in, you know, trying to find a balance that provided value. Yeah.
Here's an interesting one, and I like to hear what Bella has to say, and maybe I'll chime in after. But Chief Freight Hauler, I like this question.
I can't get enough of you, by the way. Good to see you, Chief Freight Hauler.
Yeah, he's on stop of. He's got a weird amount of stops.
Yeah,
he's 12 of 16.
Yeah, he does like nursery loads. This guy's hot, man. This guy's out of like Florida. I appreciate
Erica
this
and
guy.
Ryan, what's up, Gabe? What's going on, everybody? But Chief Freight Hauler, a really good question, because you do, like Jerry said, you're posting really good stuff on socials. But do you ever wonder if you're putting out too much info and assisting your competitors?
I think, I mean, I guess that's kind of the double-edged sword of it, right? Is I want to provide value. I want to be able to offer tips or insight or anything like that, and connect with people who are in it with me, you know, like building relationships, I guess, with other people in logistics, especially people who are in similar spaces as you, like in the food or reefer LTL industry. To me, that is interesting because we might be targeting the same people, and they're probably the same enterprise customer that 100,000 other brokers are prospecting, you know? Right. And so I think at the end of the day, it's who your company is, what you can have to offer, who you are as a person, because you're not just selling your company, you're also selling yourself, you're selling your communication. And so if me and Sarah over here can offer the same thing, it's also, I hope that my personality and my service and what my company does is going to do things a little bit differently than her company, and that the customer at that point can make an educated decision on who they think would be the best fit for them. And I guess sometimes I do. But at the same time, I think we are in a very niche space. You know, we're not just spraying and praying to aluminum and to pipe and to clothing and food. So, you know, we stay in our food, we stay in our produce, and that's where it is. And I mean, at the end of the day, there is enough business to go around, you know, like there really is. There are so many shippers out there, manufacturers, growers, distributors, things like that. So I mean, I guess it is a little bit of a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? The way I think about it too, and Jared says this all the time, like, just be yourself. You know, there's only one Bell, there's only one Nate, there's only one Jared. So you could give your whole customer list away, but if you really, truly, you know, are really good with that customer, you're able to help them out any way you can. You know, that customer is going to realize that, you know, there's no one going to do it like Bella or Jared or Nate, right? So that's kind of my 2 cents. You know, if you're always yourself, I think your customer will realize that, and they're always going to stay with you and support that relationship.
I agree. I really like that you have a niche. You know, we talk to so many brokers, especially newer brokers, and they kind of just go out and try to call everybody and anybody. And it's so nice to have just a common conversation, you know, about sort of the same stuff over and over, you know, whether you're picking up peppers or you're picking up blueberries, at least you kind of have an idea of what, you know, what's going on in your world. You know, something that I think is interesting about your background is that you are into exercise science. We skipped over this a little bit. You know, how important is this in a day-to-day for your mental clarity, for you as who you are? I haven't seen any pics lately of you squatting, but you're obviously into exercise. What does that do for you from just a just a kind of a standpoint of just building mental clarity, or even just maintaining the positive person who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can say this with full certainty. At my old brokerage, I didn't really work out. I kind of, just went through a slump. It was fun. We did a lot of stuff together as a company, but I didn't focus on myself, and I think here at ANZ, we we're a lot of us are remote. We have our team in North Carolina. One of the guys there is also crazy into fitness too, so that's fun to chat about. But
Cool.
I just think overall here, I'm able to kind of remove myself from work. And that I think has made such a big impact on my mental health and just overall being exhausted and taking some time away from myself, and not even just exercising, but finding hobbies and finding things you like to do that can remove you away from a screen that you've been looking at for the last 9 hours. And your phone is still going to be blowing up, and there's always going to be issues, and something's always going to need your attention. So yeah, we're talking about this workout class I'm going to take over the weekend, but it's really like finding enjoyment in exercise and finding enjoyment in things outside of work, so that work is not your entire life. So I think honestly it's huge. It helps you find fulfillment outside of just of your job. Not everybody loves their job, and that's just a fact. I'm very lucky and I'm very grateful to have a company and to do something that I enjoy. But I think also just finding enjoyment outside of that is a really big deal. As far as me squatting, I was just like in a little bit of a slump with my squats. I was starting to get a little bit of sciatic nerve pain and stuff like that. So I moved away from the bar and I'm more of doing a belted squat. So I guess I'll have to take a video of that and I'll put it on LinkedIn one of these days. But no, I've been doing that. I've started going to the gym a little bit less, and I've been doing like a little bit more of like yogas and Pilates in my workout. Me and my dog go for like a 3-mile walk once a week, like a long one, So just trying to incorporate different things, getting outside of, I guess, what I'm so comfortable and used to trying new things, right? Finding new hobbies is what we're talking about. So yeah, I think it plays a huge part in just your overall well-being.
100%. Especially, I'm glad you're perfect setting. You're at home. A lot of people we talk to work from home and they don't have like a Jared or a Nate. We get to talk to each other.
We get to at least sit here with each other.
Jared knows I'm an anxious person, so when I get anxious, he's like, Nate, go for a walk, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to have the support, and I'm glad you find something to kind of fill your cup. A couple questions, with let me see what Ryan said. Belt squats.
Yeah.
Squats.
It feels way better. It does.
Ryan's probably the strongest man in the logistics, just letting you know.
Okay.
I'm crazy. I exercise and play video games at the same time. Jerome?
I need more detail.
Yeah,
I
need a video of this, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah. I used to do, not to date me a little bit here, but I used to do the Wii Fit back in the day. And there I am. I'm literally doing like downward dog at 5:30 in the morning. And like my kids are like 3 and 4 years old, or I guess they're 3 and 3 because they're twins. But it was just wild. Like, I mean, I remember doing this. It always made me feel absolutely terrible when they ballooned my friggin' fat ass up. And they were like, hey, you probably are 150 pounds overweight. And I'm like, thank you.
BMI?
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chief Ray, I think we need a video of you doing some push-ups.
I know. No, this cat's pretty. This cat. I mean, he was just last week. He was cutting stumps out.
Oh, you're probably jacked,
cutting trees and stuff. I bet he is too.
Yeah,
I bet he's got that kind of trucker fit.
Yeah, like, jacked.
Yeah.
Bella, a couple questions. With this holiday coming up, 4th of July, with you hammering the phones, is it, are the phones pretty much quiet? Is anyone picking up right now? What are you doing to kind of fill in that gap when it's kind of quiet? You just adding to your pipeline. Tell me what you kind of do to kind of keep yourself busy and just kind of prepared.
Yeah, I will say the phones have been pretty sad lately. I think that awkward time between, the last holiday was Memorial Day, and then now coming into the 4th, it's always a really funky time. Rates are adjusting and then they spike back up. And so it's just an overall weird time. I still make my dials, and I think when I feel like I'm really, really not connecting, which, right, I put that out there, I focus on overall email outreach, because even if they are out of office, you know, and you get that automatic response, sometimes in there, I mean, I guess that's part of sales, right? Sometimes in there you do get the, you know, assistant logistics manager, or, you know, other people, other contacts that you could possibly reach out to. And maybe just based off the title, you thought that was the person it was, but it isn't, you know? So from there, you know, I've gotten correct contacts or things like that. So you might get a little lucky with an email or two and have a new prospect to reach out to. But then also, I think, you know, supplementing with those emails, you'll know when people are out of office. And so, you know, you can give them a couple days before you try to give them a call again, and like, oh, how is your vacation? You know, it's a super easy way to like build a rapport and start a very simple conversation with someone. And then not only that, I think, especially when it's slow, it's a good time to look at your pipeline and say, oh, you know, I talked to someone from this company. I actually know they do X, Y, and Z. I have one other person from that company. Let me remove them from my pipeline because we can't work together. You know, we don't move tankers, you know. So looking at that, and I think adding and being more targeted, you know, are you targeting like more, you know, QSR? Are you going to go food service? Are you going to try to for growers? Is there an event coming up in your area? Like what can I look at and say, hey, are you going to be here? And, you know, create some type of sequence or something for that. And I think with that too, like when it's slow, that's kind of when I start to put together, you know, data. I do that monthly newsletter. So try to put together data, read articles, and just stay kind of up to date with trends and things like that. And just look at big picture things too.
Right.
Try to get an idea of where the market's going. I think it's a great time to like build relationships. And we talked about talking to other brokers and things like that and seeing what they're saying. Like it is nice to have you know, conversations with colleagues in the same space, and, you know, or who have a deeper understanding of what you're doing, and just try to get, you know, I mean, mentorship isn't the right word, but like, you know, learn from someone, and, you know, and you can learn from your customers too. So call up your customers and have a 30-minute conversation with them when it's slow, and just, hey man, how's it going? Like, how was your weekend? What did you do? You know, so I think there's productive things that you can do when it's slow. That's not always just dialing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love how creative you are. You know, keeping in touch with the industry, the market. Heck, you even said looking at events that are close to your customers to kind of, you know, start that conversation there. That's very creative. I love that. You know, how many touches typically for you have you seen? Just a rough estimate. You know, if you prospect a company, you know, how many touches until you actually get to maybe move your first load, or maybe just try to quote something?
Maybe if I can think about like where I'm at right now, maybe 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's a mix of calls and emails, and you might have gotten them on the phone after 2 calls and 2 emails, and then you call them a month later or a week later, and they're like, oh, we're, you know, I'm just thinking of my most recent one, you know, oh, we're just onboarding a new like TMS system, so it's going to be a while, you know, but we're open to having a conversation. It's like, okay, well, they're going to be done in 2 months, so let me call them in 2 months and see how things are going. And then you don't get them, you call them a month later, you're sending emails in between, you know. And so that's really how it is. And then you call them, and, you know, I finally got him on the phone again, like, hey man, how's it going? Like, I just wanted to check in with you. Like, no pressure, I'm just having a conversation. Like, how are things going with that new system? And are you seeing anything? And just letting them talk. It's okay. I know I'm talking a lot right now, but it's okay to let other people talk, you know, when you're making those calls. And trying to understand, you know, are they having any issues, or are things going pretty smoothly, or are they, you know, trying to get ahead of issues or expectations that they're predicting based off of their production and manufacturing, you know. So looking at that. And so I would say it takes a while. This was one of the first people I reached out since I got with A&Z, and that was back in September. And so we're finally right here. Paperwork's all set up to move our first load with them. So, I mean, that's what, 9 months. So within that's probably reaching out to them at least twice a month, pretty consistently. Yeah. And so, I mean, it takes a lot of work and a lot of, you know, consistent follow-up. And that's where it's like, how do you follow up? That's not just like a, hey, how's it going? Just want to check in with you. You know, what else can you say? What else can you do? How else can you provide value and show that you can be a partner for them? You know, you understand what you're talking about, you understand the industry, and a good partnership isn't, you know, just, hey, how's it going? You have anything we can move for you? You know, but really trying to understand their operation.
Yeah, you're very intentional, which is super nice.
Yeah. If you're watching this and you're fairly new, just rewind that back 6 minutes, because everything everything Bella's saying is just spot on.
We kind of skipped over that too. What was nice is that, like, I feel like the way you sell, it's not like you're selling something. You're like, it's all about that customer. When you call them, oh, hey, you onboarded a new software. How's that going? Right.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you make it about them and not like, hey, I got, like you said, I got a driver in your area. You know, we got all sorts of things, right, that everyone's saying over and over. You sound so different than anyone that we talk to. And exactly, if you guys missed what she said, definitely rewind.
Just listen to it again, because I mean, just to even soak in just the general things that you're saying so quickly you're talking about sequencing and updating your pipeline and cleaning your pipeline and working through all those things. I friggin' love that. Like you're taking it to another level. And I think most people think that it can be a shallow, quick win sort of aspect. And I really think it's important that you listen to understand this particular aspect of how long does it really take to get a client. And you can just start today with what she's talking about today, right?
Exactly. Chief Fairheller, another good question, man. What would you do if a customer onboards you but then ghosts you? There was enough interest to completely onboard a carrier, then crickets.
You know, that's actually happened to me since I've been at ANZ twice. So the first one, we had an awesome call, you know, okay, the paperwork's going to be sent over. It sounded like we were very aligned with what we were doing, and it was crickets. And then it stayed that way for probably like 4 months. And then, you know, I messaged her on LinkedIn. We were connected, just like a, hey, how's it going? I know, you know, things have been crazy for you. Just wanted to touch base with you. Great. We'll set up a meeting. So sorry, we've been busy. And you're like, okay, yeah, okay. And then ghosted again. And so it's just kind of like, at this point, I actually sent it yesterday, you know, hey, can you just level with me? Am I, you know, not in nicer words, am I wasting my time here? You know, is this, it sounded like we had a lot of synergies within our networks. It sounded like we both valued partnerships. You know, we don't want to be the cheapest option and you don't want to take the cheapest option. Like, you know, we want good quality carriers on what you're moving and how you're moving it. And I still haven't heard back. And then, you know, for the other one that happened to me is we did get set up and we moved a load with them, and we would hear, and everything went smooth. There was nothing wrong with it. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, we're actually moving Has now. So I don't think this is going to like partner. And we don't, and I was like, we don't move Has, like we don't, and I'm not going to try it. And we're, you know, it's different. It's not what we do. And we are open to expanding our network and expanding what we're doing and our overall, you know, carrier partnership and operations. But to things that make sense, and moving hazmat material doesn't line up with what we do. And so that was like okay, well, if you ever, you know, change the market that you're in or anything like that, or if I know of a hazmat carrier, you know, in the West Coast, like I'd love to connect you with them, you know. But you don't have to, I guess that's two. One was a conversation and one wasn't, you know. So it's at the end of the day, like they are people, and you might just be reaching out to them at the wrong time, and they're like, I'm trying to do 10 different things. I don't have time to email Bella back right now. And that's fine. And that happens, and it sucks, but it is what it is. And sometimes there's not always you don't always get an answer, and that sucks, but it's a part of it, right? People are going to ghost you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. You know, out of curiosity, because we were talking AI on Wednesday, do you use AI at all during your day-to-day?
I do. I automate some of my processes. So I think being able to utilize it for, to automate like some more mundane stuff of like when I'm taking meeting, a perfect thing that I use is like when I'm taking meeting notes, I love to put in to like ChatGPT. I mean, that's the one everyone has, right? I love to put my meeting notes in there and like, can you summarize this for me? Can you put this into like a, you know, an easy format for me to like read and group everything together? Because my meeting notes are all over the place and they're here and I'm circling things. And so like, okay, can you put these into categories, you know? And I think that's really helpful. And also like, I love to use it as like okay, based off my meeting notes, are there better questions I could have asked that I didn't, and like some things are just like inferred. Like I knew I was having a call with a frozen shipper, so I didn't ask that question. I didn't put it into ChatGPT. So it's going to give you like the most simple questions, but then there are some in there where no, you really could have, dive deeper into this area, or with them opening up that new facility, is it going to be the same product? Is it supplementing an area somewhere else? And like that wasn't a question that I was even thinking of, like, oh, is that going to take over manufacturing, or are you guys overall increasing production? So I think it's an awesome tool to get feedback on what's working, what are you missing. Granted, some things like go over its head. But I do think it's a really cool tool to like, for me, like to get just like instant feedback of, okay, what when my process feels a little funky, like what could I adjust? And obviously these are conversations I'm also having with like Cody and Erica on my team. But it's nice to have that as well, to get a completely different perspective, because although me, Cody, and Erica are very different, we're also very similar. We sell from the same company and we understand A&Z's operation. So sometimes it is nice to get an outside perspective, even if it is an AI bot.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think we're all three kind of similar with our chat,
for sure,
or with the AI, because I use it almost daily just to be like you said, is there something else I should have said? Did I word this fine? Sometimes I'm just throwing it in there like, hey, dumb this down for me. Like I'm just
that was me trying to understand this week I was really trying to understand rebates. I know we do them, but I personally don't. So I'm asking Eric, I'm asking Cody, and I was like, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT, because nobody's giving me an answer that I can fully understand on how rebates work in logistics and transportation.
Yeah,
that's so good.
I love that.
I love that too.
Bella, I know we've taken about 30 minutes of your time. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Jared, do you have any closing questions for Bella before we let her go and get back to work here?
I think just a couple things just to reflect back on. I love your processes. If you're new in this industry, go back and watch everything she's talking about, from just the hits to the different conversations with the clients, to the emails. Everything was just a breath of fresh air and just an understanding of where things are at today. You just can't jump in and expect to get a client the day one, and it doesn't work that way. And so I love that you're so real with us. We just appreciate you coming on and taking a couple minutes of your day. It's Friday morning, something's burning down, and we appreciate it, so thank you for your time and effort today.
Yeah, really quick, if there are potential shippers that are watching or soon to watch this, how can shippers reach out to you? How can carriers reach out to you? Maybe just other brokers want to connect with you and learn more.
Yeah, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So, that's just Bella Montoya on LinkedIn. You can email me at bella.montoya@anztrucking.com. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way for an initial outreach. I'm very active on there. So yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Awesome.
I love it.
Well, thanks again, Bella. Everyone thinks you're wonderful. Even Eric, she says you're the best. You're the best.
She has
to. Thanks again, Erica. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Have a great weekend and a great 4th of July. I'm gone next week.
We're gone.